Morning everyone, and welcome back to the Runpreneur blog, where we discuss all things entrepreneurship and running. It is a okay morning today. It's about 4 degrees, so not too cold, not too breezy, a little bit damp, but okay running conditions for a change. And it's Sunday run day today, where we discuss all things running. And today's topic is from one of our community members, Erick Magana, who says when he runs for 4 days in a row, his knees are absolutely spent and he can't carry on. So he's looking at ways in which he can overcome these issues so he can get back to running consistently. So hopefully I'll summarise the title a bit more succinctly in the title of this episode. But as always, if you like this episode, please give it a like and a subscribe, and let's get started. So, Erick has stated that 4 days running, there's a few variables here that I don't know. I don't know how far he's running. If he's running 4 ultra marathons back to back, then I think most people's knees would be fairly shot. But let's assume here that he's relatively new to running, or he's relatively new to running. Maybe he's run for 6 months to 12 months, something along those lines, okay, which is an assumption I'm going to make for the sake of this episode. So he runs 4 days, and then his knees are just in pain or under duress. That means that he can't run again for a while. He's to wait to recover. So the first thing I do here is, I'm no sports masseuse or sports therapist in any way, shape or form, but what I would do first and foremost, if I'm having issues with my knees, is I'd go and see a specialist to confirm that there's no bigger or underlying issue. Because if there is, and you're not aware of it, and you just start running, yet you've got some ligament damage of some kind, then it's only going to make the injury worse and possibly, life limiting at some point in the future, which clearly we want to stop. And the reason for that is that running is a repetitive sport. It's a rhythmic sport. It's the same motion over and over again. Yes, it's therapeutic. It's painful, there's all sorts of emotions you get from running, but the cut and thrust of it is one foot in front of the other, rinse and repeat over and over and over again. It affects your whole body. People don't think about that. It's your soles of your feet, to your ankles, to your Achilles, to your calves, to your knees and ligaments, to your quads, hamstrings, glutes, core, your shoulders, your elbows, your head. It's everything's linked. If you get one thing out, then the repetition of that same motion over and over again is only going to exaggerate the issue over the course of time and compound the effects of it. So I think it's really important. So I would always get checked out first. The other thing I don't know about you, Erick, is what your physiological metrics are. So what's your weight? The reason that's important is if you are overweight, and this is not, you just have to take this stuff into consideration. Ultimately, science-backed evidence suggests if you're heavier, then you're putting more strain through your knees and your joints when you run. That's not to say don't run. It means to say start slower and start more strategically. Start trying to lose that weight before you start increasing the pace or increasing the mileage, and do it in a sustainable way that your body can adapt to, rather than, oh yeah, I'm clinically obese, but I'm just going to go and run 10k 4 days straight. It's unlikely to end well. So you have to bear these things into consideration. So I don't know your physiological metrics here, but if I was on the heavier side, I would have a plan to start shedding some of the weight before I up the pace and the mileage, okay? And the reason for that is the fat burning zone is a slower pace, a slower heart rate. So you almost want to be walking. When I mean that, I don't mean walk, I mean run really slowly. So like this, I'm running at a really slow pace now. I'm even talking slow because I'm running slow, but that type of pace should be no more than what you should do until you shed certainly a significant amount of weight to allow you to start increasing. So physiological metrics are important. So the next thing I'd look at, once I've assessed that I've got no underlying issue in my knee. B, I'm training in line with my body shape as such, or my physiological metrics. Then C, I'd start looking at running technique. Okay, if your knees are aching, so you've addressed point one. It's in this order, by the way. So I've seen a specialist, my knee's fine. I'm not overweight, or I was overweight, but my weight is more under control now. So that's point two covered. Then point three is running form. Okay, it's a repetitive sport. If you're running in a strange kind of technique and it's putting extra pressure on your knees, then there's your answer. So how do we go about correcting that? Well, usually running form issues comes from how you strike the ground, okay? Usually, not always, but in most cases you can correct it by how you strike the ground. Because what normally happens is I can't remember the exact terms, but when you land, you want to be as perpendicular to the ground as possible, because that's what your joints are set up to do. But some people land slightly leaning to the left, or some people land slightly leaning to the right. And as a result, your ankles and joints are leaning one way or other. And for the odd step, no drama. Your body can adapt to that. Long distance running, repetitiveness is going to take its toll. So you have to bear that in mind and understand that if you've got a running form flaw, you need to go get it addressed. So the easiest thing you can do is a couple of things you can do here. Number one is go and get your GAIT analysed. GAIT. I can't remember exactly what it stands for. But ultimately, what you do is you go to a running shop or a sports shop that do GAIT analysis. So make sure you check for that before you go. Obviously, COVID permitting, I'm sure when shops start opening again, you'll be able to get in there and kind of do this in a socially distanced fashion. But what's going to happen is you're going to try on a neutral pair of running trainers, okay, and you're going to run on the treadmill, and the person who's going to analyse you is going to be video recording you in super slow motion camera footage from behind, so you can see exactly where your heel lands, your foot hits the ground, and whether it's leaning one way or other. If it's leaning one way or other, then they can give you more supportive footwear to start pushing you slightly more to a more perpendicular landing, okay? And so, you know, you've got some that will push you, you know, I think it's pronounced, and I can't remember the other one, but basically it'll push you left or right, depending on which way you're kind of leaning towards when you land. And that will hopefully put less pressure for your joints and hopefully solve your running issues. Now, when I started running, my gait, to begin with, I've had weak ankles through injuries through football, or soccer, to those of you in the States, but what generally happened was my ankles were leaning one way to subsidise the weakness in one of my ankles, and we used some different running trainers. Eventually I got back to a neutral landing, which was great, because neutral footwear is far cheaper than supportive footwear, but don't cut cost. If you've got a running form flaw, then you need to get it corrected. The other option is, I wouldn't recommend this for new beginners, but if you're more experienced and you're starting to get these issues, then barefoot running. You know, barefoot running is like a different sport. Now, it took me a year to transition, but it's so painful landing in an incorrect form. You have to land on the ball of your feet, so no heel striking, and if you're leaning one way or other, you'll feel it. It'll be like a sharp pain through your calves and your Achilles immediately. You're so in tune with the ground. And the biggest issue is you have to strengthen your Achilles and your calf muscles to be able to take it. It took me a year and 6 calf tears, so I wouldn't recommend it for a complete novice, but if you're a more experienced runner and you are still getting these types of issues, then it's worth considering transitioning over. And I've done episodes on how to make the transition to barefoot running before, but it will correct your form. Just my experience here, you can't not run in the right form. And since I've been converted, touch wood, the number of injuries I've had has been so few and far between, and they've always been calf related now. Then where before I had like hamstring, knees, ankles, Achilles, you know, soles of the foot, you know, all sorts of different issues that I used to have running that I've generally, touch wood, don't get them anymore since I've switched to barefoot. So hopefully there's a social proof that works. The next thing to do is to have a planned approach to running. Okay, so 4 days consecutively, it might be that you're a brand new beginner. That's too much. when I started running, okay, I did it completely wrong and I went a little bit more aggressive and intensive too quick, but I've always done sport throughout my life, so I had a good baseline level of fitness. Now, you may do that, but if I went back to running again, I would still start a lot slower, because I made massive progress running, then I got a load of injuries, and it was only because my body, I was fit enough, and I built my fitness up and my improvement really quick, but what I didn't factor in was that my joints and muscles didn't have the resilience to this type of activity, hadn't built that resilience up, and as a result, I put them under too much stress and bang, something went wrong, injury occurs. So you want to do a very slow staged approach. So it might be that you want to get up to running 4 times a week. You don't have to do them consecutive days. Okay, I run every day, and I've been running every day for nearly 300 days now, but I didn't do that from a standing start. I built my endurance and resilience up over 3 years to be able to take on a challenge like this. And I'm barefoot running now, so I've done all sorts of things to get myself to the level of being able to do this. I still don't class myself as an elite runner, but I'm fairly good at committing to challenges and seeing them through, because my body can now take it. So start slow, and maybe you go for 1 or 2 runs a week and space them out. Give your body enough time to recover, and maybe you start really low mileage, and then over the weeks just gradually increase it, maybe 5-10%. You increase either your speed or your mileage. I would always start slow and increase your distance. Pace you can put into the play when you've got a good baseline level of running fitness. So I would always suggest a staged, structured approach to gradually increasing mileage at a low pace to begin with. That's just I'm not a running coach, just stuff that I've experienced that I think would work pretty well. And especially if you're trying to shed some pounds, you'll drop the weight quicker by running at a slower pace. People don't realise that, but you need to be in that fat burning zone, which is you have to work out your heart rates to kind of get there, but it's under your maximum aerobic function. I won't talk about that now, but that's the threshold in which you start burning carbohydrate as an energy fuel as opposed to fat. You want to be in the fat burning zone where you're burning your fat supplies, because that's ultimately what's going to make you lose weight. So, and the final one I would say is accountability. It's no good committing to something and then, the weather's not very nice, or it's a bit chilly today, or I'm not feeling up to it and not doing it. By getting some form of accountability partner, somebody who's going to come on this journey with you, you're less likely to quit, and you will get to where the goal you want to reach. So the goal is important. So I know, Eric, you said you want to run, you run 4 days a week and then your knees are shot. What is the goal? You want to run consistently, but how consistently? So work out what your goal is, reverse engineer it back through the steps that I've taken you through, and then secondly, you want to find an accountability partner to either support you through this, or a running community or a running group that can help you and support you through it. Because if you feel you're letting other people down, you're much likely to quit. If it's just yourself and something's not feeling right, you can just go, I don't fancy it today. Nobody's going to know, and that's the reality. I've been doing this run vlog for 300 days now, near enough, and there are a few people that, contrary to what many believe, do actually watch my content. So if I don't put the content out every day, what happened to Kevin today? He didn't do his run. People think I've broken my streak, and I've got some pretty epic challenges that I've set myself for fundraising reasons, and I'll talk to you about those in separate episodes, but hope that's useful, Eric. So to summarise, number 1, check you have no underlying knee condition with a specialist first. Number 2, check out your physiological metrics. If you're overweight, you need to factor in losing weight before you start upping the mileage, because that could be a main reason. If number 1 and 2 are okay, then running form. Look at your technique. Go get your GAIT analysis done. If you're a more experienced runner, perhaps look at making the transition to barefoot. It will help correct your running form. Number 4 or 5, I don't know if I'm 4 or 5, is set your goal. So what goal are you trying to achieve here? What level of consistency do you want to get to? And then reverse engineer it back with a structured plan. Okay, so a gradual plan. You don't want to just go, bang, I'm going to do this straight away. It needs to be structured and planned. And number 5, accountability to support you on that journey, whether that's a running partner, a community group that you can just be held accountable for, or a running group that you can actually be physically part of when COVID permits. So I hope that's useful. As always, if you've got any questions on this stuff, drop me a comment. I'll respond to every one. If it's a bigger topic, I'll do a vlog episode and tag you in. Do check out the link in my bios where I'm soon to release my podcast and blog to support the YouTube channel, so you can watch, listen or read my content. And it's all sorted nice and neatly by topic, so if something's not relevant to you on one day, I'll do a different topic on every day of the week, and you can navigate nice and easily through the platforms where I host my content. So all that's left to say is that Runpreneur blog was set up to help entrepreneurs and business owners overcome, in fact it was set up to help people overcome the emotions of stress, overwhelm and anxiety by using exercise, or in my case running, as a release valve to relieve those daily, weekly pressures in the form of stress, process them, clear your head of them, analyse, gain clarity on them and get focus on moving forwards. Okay, you have to go through this process regularly, and whether it's running, whether it's that release valve is running, whether it's reading, whether it's yoga, meditating, whatever it is, as long as it impacts you positively, that's your release valve. You have to have that in your life. If you don't, it's like pressure that builds up in a pipe. Pressure being in the form of stress, it will build and build and build, tend to overwhelm. Overwhelm is when you'll struggle with a kind of a seizure and you'll just procrastinate so much, you've got too much going on, you don't know where to start. And then that overwhelm very quickly will switch over to anxiety. You start having panic attacks and anxiety attacks like, oh, what do I do, I'm struggling. And at that point, the pipe will burst, so the pressure bursts the pipe. And what will happen is you'll have a breakdown, or whatever you're working on will stop and have a breakdown. So now I have been there, and my background in business, I've lost businesses because of this. I've lost business partners because of this, and I've almost been bankrupt because of my inability to process these emotions. And rolling on now, the last 9 months of doing my running vlog, which is my release valve, there's no coincidence that I've made more progress in the last 9 months than I have in the previous 4 years. So I hope there's enough social proof there showing you that this stuff really works. And my pledge to you, if you're someone struggling with this, drop me a message, okay? Now, many have already done so, because I know that things that I integrate into my daily life and weekly life is very transferable into yours. Thank you. So, and there's no catch here. I'm not charging you anything. There's no sale or anything here. I just want to help you. And many of you have taken me up on this, and I know we've made some significant positive differences to so many. So reach out, don't be afraid. You'll be amazed how much help is available. You just have to be prepared to ask, and it's often free. A lot of people don't realise that. So that's it for me today. As always, if you like this episode, give it a like, a comment and a subscribe. If you want to see similar content, check out the playlist link on any of my platforms. And all that's left to say is stay positive, stay happy, and I'll see you tomorrow.